Hi, welcome to the Mississippi Quilt Association YouTube channel. I'm Stephanie Otts. I'm the MQA Publicity Chair, and thank you so much for joining. So, for those who are new, the Mississippi Quilt Association is a nonprofit association in Mississippi dedicated to preserving and promoting the art of quilt making in the state. We have around 400 active members, and we primarily connect through holding 3 gatherings a year. But then we also have an online private Facebook group and an email newsletter and other activities throughout the year. So I am here with our monthly MQA Happenings video. So happy November. I can't believe we're almost done with 2023. I don't know where the time has gone. So this video will be probably a little shorter than some of the others because we're still catching our breaths from the fall gathering. That was just a couple weeks ago. It was held in Biloxi, which was the first time, not the first time ever that MQA had been at the coast, but it had been probably more than 20 years since MQA had hosted a gathering along the coast, and it was wonderful to reconnect with our members and other quilters at the coast. So I was sad to miss it. I had a work trip that I needed to be on the same week, and it was great to see all the pictures and videos that people were sending my way. I'm still working on processing them and editing them. I will be sharing videos of some of the presentations here on the YouTube channel, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, I think we had a great turnout. We had probably about 120, 130 people, which is kind of our average, and it was great to see because it was a little remote for some folks. Those of you who are watching who might not be from Mississippi might not realize it's a very long state, and it can take 6.5 hours to get from the northern part of the state all the way to the coast. So we weren't sure what our turnout might be, since that was quite a way for some of our members to travel, but we had great registration and a great turnout, and I think everyone had a good time. And we're already looking ahead to the schedule for next year. So the spring gathering, our spring gathering in 2024, will be held February 9th and 10th at Copiah Lincoln Community College in Wesson. So there's an event center on the campus. The hotels will be in Brookhaven, which is just a short drive from the community college campus. We don't have full details on the hotels yet, and the agenda or things like that, since we are still wrapping up from the fall gathering and just starting to get into planning for the spring. But I will be sharing a lot more information about that as we get more details in and we get closer. So again, follow us on social media, Facebook and Instagram, and here on the YouTube channel to make sure that you don't miss anything. But for now, just mark your calendars. February 9th and 10th will be the spring 2024 gathering. So the other thing I wanted to talk about for this video is actually not related to MQA, but since it was the reason I missed the fall gathering, I thought that some of our members might be interested in the trip I took. So I needed to go to Lincoln, Nebraska to attend a work conference that actually had nothing to do with quilting. It was about invasive species management. I have a project related to noxious weeds, so like kudzu, for all of those that know that plant has taken over the South. But it was exciting to learn that I was going to have a down day during that conference, and Lincoln is home to the International Quilt Museum. So I was able to take a morning during that trip and go over and visit the International Quilt Museum. So it was a wonderful place to visit. I would recommend it to anyone. It is smaller. Their building is on the smaller side, right? If you think of like museums, like the Smithsonian or things like that, it's not a big massive museum, but it's so nice to visit something that is exclusively dedicated to quilting. So they currently have 4 galleries. One gallery was actually closed when I was there because they were transitioning to a new exhibit. So if you were planning a trip to Lincoln to visit the International Quilt Museum, I'd encourage you to check their events calendar and to make sure that something isn't in transition, or maybe that they would have lectures or other events while you were there, so you didn't get caught off guard when you got there. But yeah, they had 4 galleries. And also, like, downstairs when you first get into the museum, they have their curator kind of workshop with glass that you can watch them prepare quilts to get ready for exhibits. So there were several volunteers there working when I was there. They were laying out quilts, putting on hanging sleeves, getting them ready to go on the walls. So that was neat to see the process with that. They had a kind of large gallery, which I think was an expansion to the museum after it was built. And that was featuring an exhibit that was a traveling exhibit from SACWA, the Studio Art Quilters Association, and had a lot of modern quilts, very different than what most of us would make on a regular basis. And then they had the 2 exhibits that I was able to see. One was World War II quilts, and so there were just quilts that had been made for, like, to raise money for the Red Cross. There were some signature quilt blocks that were, made in memory of soldiers. And then there were just some, red, white, and blue kind of patriotic style quilts. And then they had a exhibit on the New Deal and quilt making, which I found so fascinating that I even had to buy the companion book that went to the exhibit. So it was called A New Deal for Quilts. And the way their exhibit works, I think they said they have 8,000 quilts in their collection. They're obviously not all on display at all times. I think it was in one of the descriptions, they said that each quilt can only be displayed for like 1 year, and then it goes back into storage for 9 years before it comes back out and displayed, right, to preserve it from the elements or light or things like that. And so they have these different themed exhibits where they bring out quilts from their collection to tell a particular story. And so the New Deal for Quilts was about the different programs that were part of the New Deal that had aspects of quilt making. So I haven't gotten through the book yet, but they, had some of the, Works Progress Administration funding that went to artists, and artists were hired to paint or draw color versions of quilts to preserve those for the historical record. The WPA also ran sewing rooms where there were sewing machines available for women to come and learn how to sew or to make clothing and quilts that then could be sold to help support their families. And then there was also a couple of quilts displayed that had been made for various contests related to the World's Fair that were held in Chicago and New York. And I don't know if I can find the image of the one that was, really interesting to me. This one was called Road to Recovery, and this woman made this applique quilt that she said was to illustrate kind of the road to recovery during the Depression, and how long it is. But like up here, is the World's Fair, and so it's just kind of interesting to learn about the different programs and the way that, of course, quilting has been with us for a long time and is has obviously different aspects beyond just keeping us warm, right? But it has a lot of pictures in here, including different types of applique bedspreads. I was trying to think what I wanted the other thing to show. But yeah, like just different pictures. And I think you can see some of the quilts that are on exhibit on the International Quilt Museum website. And so I'm going to link it down below if you were interested in finding out more about that particular exhibit, the World War II quilts, or anything else that the International Quilt Museum has to offer. So I definitely would recommend a trip to Lincoln. I had never been to Nebraska before, so I had no idea, what to expect. But it's a nice little college town. The museum is actually run out of the University of Nebraska, so it's near their campus. There was a lot of good places to eat, a small little historic district downtown that I was able to visit. So I spent probably an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours at the museum. I got lucky. I timed it that a volunteer docent was there offering tours. And so I joined the tour and got to hear a little bit more about the quilts than I would have otherwise. But it's definitely not a whole day type of event, but it's a wonderful morning or afternoon and a very nice place to visit. So that's my trip to the International Quilt Museum, and I hope on social media to share some more pictures and things like that. So I think those were the two big events, and other than that, I usually finish the video with a little bit of personal sewing. So I continue to work on the new fig tree quilts block of the month that I joined. It's Midnight in the Garden, like round 2. I don't think that's the official name, but this month's block was this neat kind of star, Irish chain, variation. So I got those done, and then I continued to work on the chicken scratch embroidery sampler. And so this one was a long flower border type block. So it's been interesting working with variegated thread. I don't do that often, and I ran out. I had to change skeins halfway through, so was a little not sure that the variegation stayed consistent throughout the whole block, but it's coming together nicely. So I think I have 5 or 6 more blocks to go, and then it'll be ready for assembly. So I hope that everyone is doing well. I encourage you, if you're not already a member of MQA, to join. You can join for $20 a year by filling out the form on our website. I hope to see everyone in February at the spring gathering, and I'm also kind of still kicking around ideas for an online event that we could do in December as kind of part of the holiday season. So I will be back next month with another MQA Happening video, and also stay tuned for some of the recordings from the fall gathering in Biloxi. So thanks. Have a great month.